Well, this is it, guys. You found it. This is the tutorial show on how to make this gorgeous chili con queso soup. Keep watching. You're going to get a great recipe and all of the techniques to pull it off. Well, howdy, folks. Welcome to Texas Cooking Today. What you're watching here is a Texas Cooking Today tutorial. These are very in-depth videos on the techniques and methodology used to make any of my recipes. So anytime that you see one of my recipes that says tutorial, that's what this is. Now, if you just want the recipe, you don't want the extra information, that's the previous episode, guys. So check that out if you would. This one is going to teach you everything you need to know about making this recipe. Now let's get on with it. Guys, that looks good, doesn't it? I have to tell you a little story about this recipe. It was a couple of weeks ago. I was sitting here thinking, I want something for dinner, but I don't want, just a heavy meal. And I started thinking something cheesy, and I thought chili con queso maybe. But I didn't want to make a thick dip like that and have chips with it and all that. And it dawned on me, why don't I just create a soup? Something light, something summery, but something that's also chili con queso. Chilies with cheese. Guys, that's exactly what I did. This week I developed a fantastic recipe for a chili con queso soup. And once I tasted it, I realized this is fantastic as it is. I need to go ahead and publish this soup. So that's exactly what I'm doing today. I'm going to show you the recipe I came up with a little bit earlier this week. This is simple, it's easy to make, it's kind of fun to make really, and it's light, summery, it's just perfect for right now. So guys, let's get in the kitchen and let's get busy making this fantastic tasting soup. This is chili con queso soup. Come on. Oh guys, there it is. Wonderful ingredients for a very simple but explosively delicious soup. We've got chilies here. These are poblano chilies. Poblanos, they're really good. Now, can you substitute other stuff? Well, of course, yeah. You could use Anaheim chilies for this. You're going to have to use a few more because they're smaller. Same way with banana chilies. There's a lot of different choices on this, guys. What I'm using today is going to be poblanos, and I'm also going to have onion in that. We're going to have some cheese in this, of course. The cheese that I've chosen for this particular dish, I wanted the cheese to be somewhat standoutish, and I wanted it to be sharp, to have a nice tangy edge to it. So I have chosen extra sharp cheddar. Now we're going to be using that extra sharp cheddar also with some chicken broth, a little bit of salt. I have 1 can of evaporated milk. Now that is not the sweetened condensed milk, guys. That's evaporated milk. And so you'll know what that is. It's basically, you might as well just say concentrated milk. They've evaporated out some of the moisture in it, making the milk a little bit stronger. And it's perfect for this kind of dish, especially when we have this much liquid to displace. Okay, so we have that, and then I have some cornstarch here. And we're going to be using the cornstarch as a thickener. Now guys, it's easy enough. Let's get into making this soup. We're going to have to cut up this onion and get busy by removing all of the skin on these chilies. The poblano chili is delicious. It's thick, it's meaty, and it's not very spicy. It makes a very good choice for this dish. Now guys, when it comes time for us to prep our veggies, we're going to be cutting this up in just a moment, and we'll get into that. But on these, how do you get the skin off of a chili? All right, now some chilies this doesn't work too well for, but on poblanos it works really, really well. Their skin seems to separate fairly easy once it's been blistered. Now that's really the trick there, is getting the skin to separate from the meat. And there's different ways of doing that. But regardless of which way you use, it begins with the application of high heat. So whether you use a torch or a stove burner like a gas burner, or a broiler, or a gas grill, or a charcoal grill, or whatever method you bring high heat to these, get it on that high heat. And then after it's starting to blister, the first method you can use is what they call sweating, where you put these into a sealed environment, like a plastic bag, and then you let them sweat for about 10-15 minutes. when you take them out of that bag, that skin will just peel off of the chili very easily. Okay, that's a great way of doing it. The method that I'm going to use, though, I'm just going to scorch these on the stove, and then after I've scorched them, I'm going to wash off that skin. That is one way of doing it. It's not necessary to wash it off. You can just peel them. You get a stronger chili flavor, but I've also noticed I get a lot of little black specks in it that way. So when we're doing this, I'll just put them directly on the burner, turn the burners on full blast, and when it starts popping and crackling, that's that skin blistering and beginning to char. The charring also affects the flavor too, if you want to look at it that way. So guys, cook your chilies until they're good and scorched all the way over, or like I said, put them under the broiler or any high heat application. Even a propane torch will work well for this. Guys, this is what I'm talking about. You see this charring here. Let me get a better hold on this. You can see the charring on that chili. You can see the distinct different colors between the charring and the green areas. That's what we're looking for, is to get a good charred surface all over it. And it doesn't have to be perfect. If there's a few small spots that aren't charred, life won't come to an end, okay? Don't lose any sleep over it. Just like I said with the torch, yes, a propane torch will actually work well for this, especially for chilies that have unusual shapes and are harder to char. Okay guys, we have finished charring all of those chilies. Now look at that, isn't that gorgeous? They're all charred off. All I have to do now is just wash this off. Now this of course can be just pulled off by hand. Right there you see it just comes right off. And professional chefs will do it that way instead of washing it, and they say, well, that will prevent the oils that are attached to the chili from getting washed off. Guys, a little bit's going to get washed off in this process, but for this particular dish, washing works fine, okay? So don't hesitate to do that. Now here's how to do one of these, and this is how you remove the crown also. So the first thing we want to do is give this a good wash. There we go. And push my finger into the side and pull down. It'll make a slit just like that. Now pull away. Let me turn that off. Pull the meat away at the crown where it breaks there. Okay. That's all you have to do. Now sometimes it can tear the chili if you pull down on those veins, and that's what just happened. But that doesn't matter because we're chopping this up. There we go. You just wash any extra seeds out of the inside, any of the rest of that skin off the outside. And now this chili, this is ready to get sliced up and diced, okay? It's ready to go. Do all of your chilies the exact same way. As you see, when you get that crown, you get the majority of that seed pod intact also. Okay guys, we got our onion all cut up nice and pretty, and we want to get that right up in our pot. It's time for us to go ahead and slice up these poblanos. Now guys, this is as easy as just cut them in half, kind of lay them out. If you want to double up over on the top of them like this, you can, and cut you some strips. And those strips don't need to be huge, but about a ½ inch wide seems to make a nice little morsel in a soup. And then I'm going to cut those ½ inch wide strips a ½ inch long, so I get nice square little pieces. Again, good for a soup, good size. See there? You see the size of pieces we're getting? Really nice. Now those I'm not going to put in my pot just yet. I want to cook the onion for about 10 minutes, and then I'll put these in and sweat these into the whole thing as well. Now guys, I have the onions right here in the pot, and I've been putting a little olive oil in there with them. Now these, let's just make sure they're well coated with oil. I'm going to cover this. We'll bring that up and let it sweat for about 10 minutes, guys. Those chilies, once they've turned slightly translucent, then we're going to add in once my onion turns slightly translucent, we're then going to be adding in our chilies over here. So that'll be 10 minutes of sweating on the onion, and then we'll add the chilies and cook them for another 10 minutes. Now guys, we have a good translucent state on these onions now, and a little bit of browning forming. That didn't hurt anything. Okay, we want to put that in. Give this a good stir so we can get those onions off the bottom of the pan. If you want, you can add a little more oil to that just to give it a good even coat. Okay guys, we're going to cover this and let that sweat for just a little longer. And I'm doing this on a medium-low heat. I'm stirring it about every 3 minutes. So another 10 minutes. Guys, these have now been cooking for 20 minutes total since I began the onions. So it's 10 minutes on the onions, another 10 minutes with the onion and chilies together. And we have this going on right here. So what we want to do is get our stock in here. I'm going to increase the heat on this until I can bring it up to a boil. And I want to go ahead and put salt in here right now. Now, bring this to a boil. As soon as it comes to a boil, I'm going to reduce the heat to a low, and that'll be a low simmer. And then once I do that, I'll cover it, and it can cook for anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes. Now, what we're doing in all of this, guys, where we sweat the onions and then put the chilies in there and cook those in with it, we're developing complex flavors here. So we're forming a soup base that's going to give us fantastic flavor. Let's get our evaporated milk right down in here. Let's go ahead and stir that in as we go. Oh yes, that is beautiful. Now what I'm going to do is just slowly stir in my cheddar cheese. Okay, that's all there is to it. And we're going to let that heat melt that cheese. Go ahead and get a closer look here. So you can see that color changing as we get the cheese melting. And it's forming into a beautiful, beautiful soup. Now guys, once we have the cheese melted, or mostly all the way melted like it is now, let's go ahead and put a low flame underneath that pot. And this is going to be important because the next step, we're almost done with this. The next step is about thickening it, okay? So let's turn our attention right over here to our cornstarch and water. Now, whenever you're mixing cornstarch into something to thicken it, do not pour the cornstarch directly into your soup. Oh, good Lord, that'll be a mess. You'll have a clumpy, nasty, god-awful mess on your hands. What you want to do here is to take this cornstarch and just work it right down into your water. So I'm going to pour it right into this. Make sure you use cold water for this. Guys, the thing of it is cornstarch does not like to mix in with hot water, okay? So don't try to force it to do that. It's not going to give you good results. If you use cold water, at first it seems to want to clump on the bottom, but in just a few seconds time, you just keep working it and it will dissolve right in. You'll be surprised how quick it goes. There we have it. The cornstarch is there. It's all dissolved and ready. Isn't this a beautiful looking soup, guys? We've got a wonderful color. There's a bit of our olive oil floating on top. Don't worry about that as we get the cornstarch in there. That's going to work right down into that soup. It'll be just fine. And then underneath it, we have this beautiful, beautiful cheesy base going on with lots of chilies. Look at that. That is cool. So that's a good spoon of chilies in every bite. Now guys, something that's real important that you need to know here. When it goes to putting cornstarch down in this, stir it in quickly. Don't mess around about this. Go ahead and get it mixed in quick. Don't pour it in there and wait, or you're going to have some of the soup really thick and some of it not thick at all. It'll be really weird. Okay guys, cornstarch going down in there. See how I did that? Pour it right on in. Now I'm bringing this up in temperature. As it comes up and it gets close to that boiling temperature, and I don't want to boil it, do not put this through a boil because it'll mess it up. But as it comes up to a boil, it's going to thicken, and you'll notice that thickening and you'll know when it's ready. When it starts to break a boil, just shut off the heat and your soup is ready at that point. Guys, this is starting to thicken up now. It hasn't quite begun to break a boil yet, but as you can see, it's coating my spoon really well. The density of it is getting really nice. I'm no longer getting that oil floating on top of it. Oh, it's starting to really come together now, guys. It's turning into that beautiful, beautiful chili con queso soup. Okay, guys, our soup has finished thickening, and look at this. Look at the texture on that. See how well that spoon is coating? Okay, that's a really good sign right there. All right, so we have the right texture, good body to our soup. Those bits of vegetables stay suspended in the soup beautifully. That's just what we want right there. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get this beautiful soup ladled up. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? One thing's for sure, when I do a bowl of soup, I like a big bowl of soup because that's a meal to me, okay? And that's what this is a beautiful summer meal. Okay guys, so you'll know the proportions that we used on our ingredients for this. That was of course 1 can of evaporated milk, and that is, by the way, 1.5 cups. That's how much is in that 1 can there. Basically 12 ounces. We have 1/2 cup of cornstarch, 1/2 pound or 8 ounces of shredded sharp cheddar cheese, 1 quart of chicken stock. You can also use a vegetable stock for this. I will be using about 2 teaspoons of salt in that, 1 medium-sized onion. I'm going to use white, but any kind of onion will work in this. And I've got 5 large poblanos. If they're smaller poblanos, you might want to use 6 of them. And if they're smaller chilies than that, like Anaheim's, you might be using 7 or 8 of those guys, okay? So don't sweat it, guys, when you're changing chilies. This recipe doesn't have to be exact. Stuff like that can be, have a little give and take. Anyway, there's your recipe. Enjoy this one. It is a really, really tasty soup. Ooh, yeah! Looky there. Guys, I absolutely love when I make a dish that's this good. Once you try this, it's going to be hard to get you to stop. And I'll tell you what, if you like chili con queso, you're absolutely going to lose it when you taste this, because it is so good. It's remarkable. Guys, thank you very much. Thank you for watching this episode of Texas Cooking Today. If you would, please subscribe if you haven't already done so. Click the like button, you know, the usual stuff. Drop a comment down below, and please share my videos. Everybody should get a chance to try this fabulous recipe. And I would like to say thank you to all of my subscribers. And folks, please just have a good day. Bye-bye. Well, there it was, guys. Did that answer all of your questions on how to make that recipe? I certainly hope so. Hey, if you have any requests or questions or comments or anything like that, feel free to drop them in the boxes down below. I do appreciate that, and I read those, believe it or not. Thank you for watching Texas Cooking Today. Folks, please share my videos. And again, thank you very much for watching Texas Cooking Today.